Ethan had been riding for hours. The sun hung low in the sky, shining softly over the wide-open land. The wind carried small pieces of sand across the ground, brushing against his boots as his horse moved slowly along the dusty trail. Ethan was tired, but his heart felt light. He had finished his work in town and was finally on his way back to his small cabin near the foothills. Life was simple there, quiet, peaceful, and calm. He liked it that way. Ethan was not a man who talked much. He worked hard, lived simply, and respected the land around him. But even though he had grown used to the silence of the countryside, there were moments when he wished he had someone to talk to, someone to share a meal with, or someone to laugh with. But life had taken him down a different path, one where he learned to depend only on himself. Still, he never complained. He believed that every day brought a new chance, a new moment of purpose, and that belief was about to show him something unexpected. As he crossed a dry riverbed, his horse suddenly stopped. Ethan gently tugged the reins, confused. The horse made a soft sound, lifted its head, and stared toward a group of trees near the edge of the trail. Ethan felt a strange tug in his chest. Something was there, something quiet. He slowly guided the horse toward the trees. At first, he saw nothing but rocks, branches, and uneven ground. But as he got closer, he noticed something unusual. Two figures sitting in the shade, leaning weakly against the trunk of an old tree. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. They were two young Apache sisters. They looked exhausted, as if they had been walking for days. One of them, the older girl, had her arm wrapped around the younger one, gently supporting her. Their faces were pale, their lips dry, and their eyes filled with tired fear. Their clothes were dusty, and their feet looked bruised from long travel. Ethan stopped a few steps away, careful not to startle them. He slowly stepped off his horse and kept a respectful distance. The older sister looked up, her voice barely strong enough to speak. "We're sick," she whispered. "We can't walk." Her words were soft, trembling. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest. He knew the land was unforgiving, especially for anyone without food, water, or shade. These sisters looked like they had been struggling for days. The younger sister tried to speak but coughed weakly instead. Ethan immediately knelt down but still kept respectful space between them. "My name is Ethan," he said softly. "I'm not here to harm you. Tell me what happened." The older sister swallowed hard before answering. "We were trying to reach our people," she said. "We got lost. The heat, the walking, we couldn't go any farther." Ethan listened carefully. Their voices were weak, showing just how close they were to collapsing completely. He knew they needed help right away. The land could be harsh. Without water and rest, they would not last long. He took a slow breath and spoke gently. "I have a small cabin not far from here. It's safe. You can rest there. I can give you water, food, and a place to sleep until you feel better." The older sister looked unsure. Ethan understood why. There had always been distance between their cultures. Many stories had been told, some good, some not. But right now, none of that mattered. What mattered was that two human beings needed help. He lifted his hand slightly to show honesty. "I mean no harm," he said in a warm voice. "You are sick. It's too dangerous to stay out here. Please, let me help." For a long moment, both sisters stayed silent. Ethan did not push them or rush them. He simply waited with calm eyes. Waiting showed respect, and he wanted them to feel safe with their decision. Finally, the younger sister nodded faintly. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Please, help us." The older sister gave a small nod too, though her eyes watched Ethan carefully, still cautious but willing to trust. Ethan moved slowly and carefully. He helped the younger sister stand, supporting her weight gently. She was light, her body weakened from the heat. Then he helped the older sister, who tried to stand on her own but nearly fell. Ethan caught her gently and rested her against his arm. "You both can ride my horse," he said calmly. "I'll walk beside you." The sisters looked surprised but too weak to argue. Ethan carefully lifted them onto the horse, making sure they were comfortable and steady. He tied a blanket around them so they would stay warm as the wind grew cooler. When everything was ready, Ethan took the reins and began walking. The horse moved slowly so the sisters wouldn't be jostled too much. As they traveled, Ethan occasionally looked up to check on them. The younger sister rested her head on her sister's shoulder, and the older one held her close. Neither spoke much. They were too tired. But Ethan sensed their quiet gratitude in the way they breathed more steadily, no longer afraid of collapsing alone in the wild. The walk to the cabin was long, but Ethan didn't mind. The path led through soft hills, low bushes, and open earth. The sky kept changing colors, orange, pink, purple, making the land look peaceful instead of lonely. Ethan hoped the calm view brought them a little comfort. After more than an hour, Ethan finally saw the familiar outline of his cabin. It stood near a cluster of trees with a small fenced area for the horse. Smoke from earlier that morning still lingered faintly in the air. The sight felt welcoming. "We're close," he said softly. When they arrived, Ethan helped the sisters down from the horse. Their legs were unsteady and they leaned on him for support. He guided them to the cabin door and pushed it open. Inside, the cabin was simple but warm. There was a small table, a wooden bed, and a few handmade shelves. Ethan had always kept the place clean, and today it felt like the cabin itself understood it needed to be a shelter for these two strangers. He helped them sit on the bed and quickly brought a bowl of cool water. The sisters drank slowly, taking small sips so they wouldn't choke. Their hands trembled, but their faces relaxed as the water eased their thirst. Ethan then prepared a warm broth made from vegetables and herbs he had collected. The gentle smell filled the cabin. When he handed it to them, they held the bowls carefully and drank slowly. "You're safe here," Ethan said quietly. "Rest as long as you need." The sisters looked at him with tired eyes. The older one murmured, "Thank you. We didn't know if we would make it." Ethan simply nodded. "You're here now. That's what matters." As the night sky stretched across the land outside, the cabin glowed softly from the small lamp Ethan lit. The sisters lay down under warm blankets, breathing peacefully for the first time in days. Ethan sat quietly by the table, keeping watch without letting them notice. He listened to their steady breathing and felt a deep sense of responsibility. He had found them by chance, but he knew helping them was the right thing to do. No one deserved to suffer alone, especially not young girls who were lost, scared, and sick. The wind outside grew gentle, brushing against the cabin walls. Inside, the air felt calm. Ethan stayed awake for a long time, making sure the sisters were comfortable. He placed a cool cloth on their foreheads and checked their water every now and then. And as he watched the peaceful scene before him, he realized something. In a land where people often stayed distant from one another, kindness still had a place. Trust could still grow. And maybe, just maybe, this unexpected meeting would change more than just their night. It might change their paths forever. The last thing Ethan saw before closing his eyes for a short rest was the two sisters sleeping peacefully, safe. The night passed slowly inside Ethan's cabin. The two Apache sisters slept deeply, their bodies finally finding the rest they had been needing for days. Ethan stayed awake for much of the night, keeping an eye on them. Whenever one of them shifted or let out a small sound, he quietly checked if they were all right. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew enough about caring for sick people to keep them comfortable. By the time the first light of morning entered the cabin, Ethan had already stepped outside to fetch water from the small well near the trees. The early air was cool, carrying the kind of quiet that only existed before the world fully woke up. Birds called to one another softly, and the leaves rustled with the steady breeze. Ethan filled a bucket of fresh water and brought it inside. The sisters were still sleeping, curled up under the blankets. Their faces looked calmer now, not tight with worry or discomfort like the night before. Ethan placed the bucket in a corner and then set about preparing breakfast, something light, warm, and easy for them to eat. He boiled some simple herbs in water, creating a gentle tea that would help their stomachs. He cut small pieces of bread and warmed them near the fire. He moved quietly so he wouldn't disturb their sleep. After a while, the younger sister, Lyra, began to shift. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking against the soft morning light. She looked around the room as if trying to remember where she was. Then she saw Ethan sitting near the fire. For a moment, Lyra looked unsure, but then she relaxed. Ethan gave her a small smile. "Good morning," he said softly. "How are you feeling?" Her voice came out faint, but clearer than yesterday. "Better, I think." "That's good," Ethan replied. "There's warm tea here. Take small sips." Lyra slowly sat up. Ethan helped her adjust the blanket around her shoulders so she wouldn't get cold. The tea warmed her hands, and she brought it to her lips carefully. She took a sip and let out a small breath of relief. "It tastes good," she said quietly. "I'm glad," Ethan said. A few minutes later, the older sister, Naya, began to wake as well. Unlike Lyra, she took a moment before sitting up, as if making sure she had enough strength. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked at Ethan with a calm but cautious expression. "Morning," Ethan said in the same gentle voice. "Drink some tea. It'll help." Naya accepted the cup he handed her, and though she hesitated for a moment, she soon realized he meant no harm. She drank the warm tea slowly, letting the heat settle inside her. For a while, no one spoke. The quiet inside the cabin felt peaceful, almost like the calm after a long storm. Ethan didn't feel the need to fill the silence with unnecessary words. He simply let them rest. After both sisters finished their tea, Ethan brought the warmed bread to them. They ate slowly, taking small bites. Their bodies were still weak, but there was a visible change in their faces. Some color had returned, and their eyes looked less tired than before. "You both need to rest more," Ethan said gently. "Your bodies are still recovering from the long journey." Naya nodded slightly. We walked for many days," she explained. "We tried to find our people, but—" Her voice trailed off, her eyes lowering. Lyra continued the sentence for her. "We got lost, and then we got sick." Ethan listened carefully. He didn't want to push them to say more than they were comfortable sharing. "You're safe here," he reminded them. "You don't need to worry." The sisters exchanged a small glance. It was the kind of look siblings share when they silently check on each other's feelings. After breakfast, Ethan stepped outside to let them rest more. He wanted to give them space, knowing they were still strangers to him in many ways. But he also wanted them to know they could trust him. Sometimes trust grew quietly, in the space between actions. Outside, the sun rose higher, painting the land in golden colors. Ethan fed his horse, checked the fence, and gathered a few herbs from the plants growing near the hills. He knew the herbs would help the sisters' recovery. When he returned inside, the sisters were awake again. Lyra was sitting on the edge of the bed, trying to braid her hair with slow hands. Naya was leaning against the wall, watching her calmly. "How are you both feeling now?" Ethan asked. "Tired, but better," Naya said. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Ethan replied. "Here, these herbs will help with the fever. They're gentle, but good." He boiled the herbs and poured the warm mixture into 2 cups. The sisters drank quietly. The warmth settled into them, helping them feel calmer. As the day went on, the sisters regained a bit more strength. They asked Ethan small questions: where he lived, how long he had been alone, whether he grew food nearby. Ethan answered with simple honesty. He told them he had lived in the cabin for several years, taking care of the land and working with ranchers in nearby areas. He explained how he liked the quiet, but he never ignored someone in need. Lyra listened with wide eyes, as if she found his simple life interesting. Naya listened too, but her attention was more cautious, always thoughtful. "You helped us when you didn't have to," Lyra said at one point. Ethan shrugged. "Anyone would help if they saw someone struggling." Naya shook her head softly. "Not everyone does." Ethan didn't argue. He knew she was right. He checked their temperature again later in the day. Lyra was already improving quickly. Naya was still a bit weak, but even she looked better than she had in the morning. "You should lie down again," Ethan told them. "Rest will do more for you than anything else." The sisters agreed. They settled back onto the bed, sharing the blanket. Ethan opened a small window to let in fresh air, making the cabin feel even more comfortable. As the afternoon sun warmed the outside world, the inside of the cabin felt like a place of safety. The sisters rested, waking occasionally to drink water or adjust the blanket. Each time they woke, they saw Ethan nearby, either preparing something, checking the fire, or simply making sure they were all right. It had been a long time since someone had watched over them this way. Later in the afternoon, Ethan brought a bowl of light soup to them. It was made from vegetables he had grown himself. The sisters ate slowly but gratefully. Every warm spoonful brought them comfort. "You cook well," Lyra said with a small smile. "That's because I have to," Ethan joked lightly. "There's no one else here to cook for me." The sisters smiled quietly. It was the first time Ethan had seen them smile since he found them. When evening came, Ethan lit the lamp again. Shadows danced along the cabin walls as the gentle light filled the space. The sisters were sitting up now, wrapped in the blanket, talking softly to each other in their own language. Their voices were gentle and peaceful. Ethan didn't understand their words, but he understood the feeling. They were relaxing. Slowly but surely, they were beginning to feel safe again. He sat by the table, giving them space but staying close in case they needed something. After a while, Naya spoke up. "Ethan," she said softly, "thank you for helping us. We don't know how to repay you." "You don't need to repay me," Ethan replied honestly. "Seeing you getting better is enough." Naya looked at him with a thoughtful expression. "Still, we are grateful." Lyra nodded in agreement. Ethan simply smiled. He wasn't used to being thanked, but their words warmed his heart. As night settled once again, the sisters looked stronger than they had in the morning. They were still weak, but hope had returned to their faces. The fear and exhaustion from before had faded, replaced with quiet trust. Ethan placed fresh water near them and lowered the lamp's brightness so the room would be calm. The sisters lay down again, closing their eyes. Before falling asleep, Lyra whispered, "This place feels safe." Naya answered softly, "Yes, it does." Ethan heard them, and without turning around, he smiled. He sat quietly, listening to the peaceful sounds of the night. The sisters slept, recovering step by step. And Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of connection, even if temporary. The cabin was no longer just a place for him. Tonight, it was a shelter, a place of comfort, a place where two lost souls could heal, and he felt grateful to be the one who could offer that. The next morning came with soft sunlight slipping into the cabin. The warm glow touched the sisters' faces gently, as if inviting them to start a new day. Lyra opened her eyes first. She felt better, much better than before. Her body still felt a little weak, but the heavy tiredness was gone. She sat up slowly and glanced around. Ethan was already awake, sitting near the table and polishing a small wooden bowl. He looked up when he heard movement and gave her a gentle smile. "Good morning," he said. Lyra smiled back, her voice shy but cheerful. "Good morning." A moment later, Naya woke up too. She stretched carefully, testing her strength. Naya always moved with careful thought, as if she wanted to protect her sister even in small moments. Ethan walked over with 2 cups of warm tea. "Drink this. It will make your morning easier." The sisters accepted the cups gratefully. The tea smelled of soft herbs and warm earth, and it filled the room with a calming scent. They drank slowly. "You both look stronger today," Ethan said. Naya nodded. "We feel better." Lyra added, "Your cabin helped us." Ethan chuckled gently. "It's just a small place." "But safe," Naya said, looking around the room. "And warm." Those quiet words meant a lot to Ethan. He prepared a simple breakfast for them: warm bread, a bit of fruit, and another cup of herbal drink. The sisters ate with calm expressions, grateful for every bite. They had gone days without proper food before they met Ethan, so even small meals felt comforting. After breakfast, the sisters insisted on helping. Ethan tried to tell them they didn't have to, but Naya shook her head gently. "You helped us," she said. "We want to help too." Lyra nodded with a bright smile. "We are feeling strong enough." Ethan didn't argue. He understood that helping made them feel more comfortable and respected. They started with simple tasks. Lyra swept the floor slowly, her movements light but determined. Naya helped Ethan fill the water bucket from the well outside. The morning breeze touched their faces, making the fresh air feel even clearer. As they worked, the sisters spoke softly in their own language. Ethan didn't understand the words, but their laughter was universal. He felt something warm settle in his heart, something like companionship. When they returned inside, Naya watched Ethan prepare more herbs. "You know many things," she said. "Like our people. You know plants." Ethan smiled a little. "I learned from old travelers. They taught me about herbs and how to use them." Naya nodded with approval. "You learned well." Lyra looked interested. "Can you teach us too?" Ethan paused, surprised but pleased. "If you want, I can." So he sat with them at the table, spreading different dried herbs. He explained which ones helped with headaches, which ones eased the stomach, and which ones brought calmness. The sisters listened carefully, their eyes focused. Naya picked up a leaf and turned it in her hand. "This one, my grandmother used to collect." Lyra smiled softly. "Yes, she made tea with it on cold nights." Ethan stayed quiet, not wanting to interrupt their memory. Naya's expression softened as she looked at the herb again. "It feels good to remember her." Ethan nodded. "Memories can heal too." The sisters looked at him with surprise. Ethan's words were simple, but they carried truth. Later in the day, the sisters felt strong enough to step outside for a short walk near the cabin. Ethan stayed close, making sure they didn't push themselves too much. The land around the cabin looked peaceful. The gentle hills, the wide open sky, the soft rustle of dry leaves. Lyra pointed to a small patch of plants near the fence. "What are those?" "Those are wild mint," Ethan said. "They grow well here." Lyra knelt down carefully and took a deep breath near the leaves. "They smell fresh." Naya walked a little slower, observing the land with quiet eyes. "You live alone here?" she asked Ethan. "Yes." "Does it feel lonely?" she asked softly. Ethan thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but I'm used to it." Lyra looked at him with concern. "No family?" "Not nearby," Ethan said, keeping his voice gentle. "Life took us in different directions." The sisters stayed silent for a moment. They understood the feeling of missing people. Naya spoke after a moment. "But you still help people." "It's what a person should do," Ethan replied. The sisters exchanged a thoughtful look. They slowly made their way back to the cabin, taking their time. Ethan noticed how the wind played gently with Lyra's hair, and how Naya kept an eye on her surroundings out of habit. They were healing, but they were still far from home. Inside the cabin, the sisters rested again. Ethan prepared a small lunch, and the day moved in a calm rhythm. Rest, tea, light tasks, and quiet conversation. After some hours, Naya finally told Ethan more about their situation. "We were traveling with our people," she said quietly. "A big storm came. The group had to move quickly. We fell behind." Ethan listened without interrupting. "We tried to follow the path," Lyra added, "but the wind erased the tracks. We walked and walked until we could not any more." Ethan felt a heaviness in his chest. "That must have been frightening." Naya nodded slowly. "Yes, but we kept hoping we would see someone." "And then we saw you," Lyra said with a soft smile. Ethan felt a humble warmth spread through him. "I'm glad I passed by at the right time." Naya looked at him with sincerity. "Many people would have kept going." "Not me," Ethan said quietly. There was a long moment of silence, not uncomfortable, but warm. A silence filled with understanding. Over the next few days, the sisters grew stronger. Each morning they woke with more energy. Lyra helped with cooking, chopping vegetables with a small knife Ethan had given her to use. Naya cleaned outside the cabin, sweeping the small space near the door. In the afternoons, Ethan showed them how he cared for his horse. Lyra was curious and approached the horse slowly, smiling when it lowered its head toward her. She gently patted its neck. "He likes you," Ethan said. Lyra laughed softly. "He is kind, like you." Naya stood nearby, watching with quiet eyes. She wasn't as playful as her younger sister, but she appreciated the calm moments. One afternoon, while Ethan repaired a loose piece of the fence, Naya approached him. "You have helped us for many days," she said. "You gave us food, water, and a place to stay." "You needed it," Ethan replied simply. "Yes," Naya said gently, "but kindness is not something everyone gives." Ethan looked at her. "You both remind me that people can still care for each other, even if they come from different places." Naya's expression softened. "We care too, for what you have done." Lyra joined them, carrying a small basket of herbs she had collected. "Look," she said proudly, "I picked the ones you showed us." Ethan smiled. "You picked the right ones." Lyra beamed with happiness, and Naya nodded approvingly. As the sun set that evening, the three of them sat outside the cabin. The sky was painted with orange and pink colors, slowly fading into purple. The air was cool, and the land was silent except for the sound of the wind. Naya closed her eyes for a moment. "I feel safe here," she whispered. Lyra leaned her head against her sister's shoulder. "I feel safe too." Ethan sat on the other side, watching the sky. "I'm glad." None of them spoke much after that. They didn't need to. The calm around them was enough. Trust had grown between them, not suddenly but slowly in the small moments. In the shared meals, the gentle words, the quiet understanding. The sisters no longer looked afraid or lost. They looked like people who were healing, like people who had found comfort far from home. Ethan knew they would eventually return to their people. But for now, he was simply grateful they were getting stronger each day. And the sisters knew that without Ethan, their story might have been very different. They trusted him now, not because of big promises, but because of the simple kindness he showed in every moment. Their bond was quiet, but strong, like the land around them. Like the gentle wind that carried peace across the morning after everything changed, felt strangely calm to Ion. When he woke up, the sunlight coming through the window looked softer than before, as if the world itself was telling him that a new chapter had finally begun. For a moment, he simply sat on the edge of his bed, breathing quietly and trying to understand the weight of everything he had learned in the past few days. His life had moved from confusion to clarity, from doubt to strength, and now he was standing on the edge of a future he had built with effort, patience, and courage. He remembered how difficult the journey had been. Every challenge, every step forward, every moment where he had almost given up, but didn't. But now, instead of fear, he felt a peaceful confidence. He was no longer running from anything. He was moving toward something better. The first thing he did that morning was step outside for a walk. The fresh air helped him clear his mind. The neighborhood looked ordinary as always. Children going to school, shopkeepers opening their shutters, birds flying from one rooftop to another. But for him, everything felt different. The world looked new because he was carrying a new mindset, and that changed everything. As he walked, he thought about all the people who had helped him understand himself. Their words, their support, and their trust had slowly filled the empty spaces in his heart. He was no longer the same person who started this journey. He was stronger now, more balanced, and finally ready to create the life he always wanted. Later that day, he met Zara at a small park nearby. She was sitting on a wooden bench, holding a notebook and smiling softly when she saw him. Zara had been one of the most important people in his story, not because she solved his problems, but because she encouraged him to face them. She listened when no one else understood, guided him when everything felt confusing, and reminded him that patience and honesty could open doors that fear kept closed. As he approached her, she closed her notebook and stood up. "I'm proud of you," she said, even before he spoke a word. Ayan smiled, a warm and grateful smile. "I'm proud of myself, too, and that feels new." They sat on the bench together, watching leaves fall gently from the trees. There was no rush in their conversation. For the first time in a long time, Ayan felt no pressure, no anxiety, just calm acceptance of who he had become. Zara asked him what he wanted to do next. It was a simple question, but for years he had avoided answering it because he never felt ready. Now he felt something shift inside him. "I want to build something meaningful," he said. "A life based on peace, not fear. A future where I choose my own steps." Zara nodded. "And you will. You've already started." Ayan knew she was right. He felt a quiet excitement as he thought about all the possibilities waiting ahead, new goals, new experiences, new relationships, and a version of himself that was finally free from confusion. The next few weeks became a time of rebuilding. Ayan changed his daily routine, focusing on healthy habits, morning walks, better sleep, and quiet moments for reflection. He also spent more time with people who brought positivity into his life. He surrounded himself with friends who encouraged him, listened to him, and respected his journey. He began working on a small project he had been dreaming about for a long time. It wasn't something big or fancy. It was simple but meaningful, a way to help others find encouragement during difficult times. He started writing short messages and life lessons he had learned, sharing them online through a small blog. At first, only a few people noticed, but slowly, more readers started visiting his page, relating to his words, and thanking him for inspiring them. This gave Ayan a new purpose. He realized that sometimes the things we go through become a light for someone else. His story wasn't just about struggle. It was also about hope, growth, and finding direction. One evening, as he sat at his desk writing, he received a message from someone who had read his recent posts. The person wrote that Ayan's words had given them strength during a difficult moment. Ayan stared at the message for a long time, feeling an emotional warmth spread through him. He had once been the person needing help, and now he was helping someone else. Life had come full circle in the most beautiful way. But the journey wasn't perfect. Ayan still had moments of doubt, days when old memories returned, or when he questioned whether he was truly strong enough. But this time, he didn't let those feelings control him. He talked about them openly, shared them with the people he trusted, and reminded himself that growth was not a straight line. It had ups and downs, and that was completely normal. With each passing day, his confidence grew. His connection with his family improved, his friendships became more meaningful, and his sense of direction became stronger. Even his relationship with Zara deepened, not in the dramatic way movies show, but in a calm, steady way built on understanding and mutual respect. They supported each other's goals, celebrated each other's progress, and stood by each other during challenges. Their bond felt natural and real. One day, Ayan visited a place he hadn't been to in months, a quiet rooftop where he used to sit whenever he felt overwhelmed. Back then, the rooftop was a place of escape, but now it was a place of reflection. He stood there, looking at the city lights glowing in the distance. The wind was soft, brushing against his skin. In that peaceful moment, he felt something powerful: gratitude. Gratitude for the people who guided him, for the lessons he learned, for the challenges that shaped him, and most importantly, for the strength he discovered within himself. He whispered to the night sky, "Thank you for everything." It wasn't a dramatic moment. It was simple, gentle, and honest, just like the new version of himself he had become. From that day on, Ayan carried a new promise within him. He promised himself that no matter where life took him, he would continue growing, continue caring, and continue choosing peace over confusion. He realized that every person has a story, and his story, full of struggle, hope, and transformation, was something he should never be ashamed of. He also understood something very important. Life does not always give clear answers, but it always gives new chances, and he was ready for them. Months later, as he walked through a busy street filled with people rushing in different directions, Ayan felt a calm smile form on his face. He was not rushing anymore. He was moving with purpose. He was moving with clarity. He was moving toward a future he had shaped with courage and honesty. Ayan knew there would be more challenges ahead, new decisions, new responsibilities, new moments where he would need strength. But this time, he trusted himself. He believed in his ability to face anything with patience and calm understanding. His story didn't end with a sudden twist or dramatic event. It ended with growth, peace, and a quiet confidence that stayed with him every single day. And sometimes, the most beautiful endings are the ones where a person simply learns how to live with clarity, kindness, and purpose. Ayan had finally found that.